Hello and welcome to episode 162 of the Rollo and Slappy Show. Today is September 16th, 2019. I am Rollo McFlugel, and with me is Corn Pop, and we are both from McFlugel.com. Show notes page for this episode is McFlugel.com/162, where we'll link to some of the stuff we talk about, as well as a way to check out our sponsor, LibertyMugs.com, where we have awesome Liberty-themed mugs and T-shirts and stickers that you can check out. So go buy stuff there. So Slappy, do you want to Corn Pop.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to talk about do you want to introduce what we want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. We got a couple topics today. First, before we get going, I just want to put out a disclaimer. There may be some little voices that you hear out there. It's bath time, and we're recording this not at our usual time. I have a flight to catch. So that's out of the way. We have a couple things we're going to talk about, maybe. Should I even announce all the topics, or should we just go and keep them in the back pocket?
I don't know. Let's just
All right, well, the first thing I want to do, and this really, I don't know how much this has to do with libertarianism, but I was watching boxing this weekend, heavyweight bout between Tyson Fury and Otto Wallin. Fury won in a unanimous decision. I think the fight was a little closer than Fury thought it would be when they scheduled it. As any boxing fans know, there's a big heavyweight bout scheduled with Fury and Wilder in February, so this was supposed to be kind of a tune-up fight, just get some action in, get an easy win. But what happened was, and I believe it was the third round, Wallin connected with a punch, a left, straight left to the Tyson's right side of his face, Tyson Fury's face, and it opened up a huge gash over his eye. So initially, the ref apparently told Fury's corner that the cut was due to a headbutt, not a punch. But the Nevada Boxing Committee, whatever they're called, commission, looked at the replay and said, no, it's from a punch. And so why is that important? Well, if a fight stops due to a cut from a headbutt, they go to the cards. At that time, the fight ends and they'll go to the cards if it's after 4 rounds. Whoever's ahead on the card wins the fight. If it's due to a punch that the fight has to end, has to stop, then it's a TKO for the person who landed the punch. So in the third round, Tyson has this giant cut over his eye, and that puts what he thought was going to be a tune-up fight in jeopardy. I mean, in theory, you could win every round and still lose the fight because that gash keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the doctor calls the fight off. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, in the middle of the broadcast, in the middle of the fight, the ESPN guy, Bernardo Osuna, went into the corner to let Fury's corner know that it was due to a punch, not a headbutt. And the following round, you saw Tyson Fury get a lot more aggressive. He ended up winning the fight handily on the cards. It may not have made a difference, but it might have. If you're operating thinking that this is a headbutt, not a punch, you may have a different strategy to when you find out it was from a punch and you absolutely have to win every round and maybe try to get a knockout and end this thing before the gash gets too big. So what are your thoughts on that, Rollo, that the broadcast team of ESPN went into the corner during a fight? Now, a little more background story. There's a huge a Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury rematch is already scheduled for February. If Fury loses this fight, that derails the whole thing. It's not that big money fight. So, are we getting a little conspiracy theorist where is ESPN actually helping Fury win the fight, giving the corner information? Because if you've ever watched boxing, they'll put a camera or microphone in the corner and you can hear them between rounds. And you heard them talking about the headbutt, the accidental headbutt after the third round. So whether they knew or not, we don't know. I mean, it could have been the trainer just trying to keep Tyson Fury at ease and just telling him it was a headbutt. It was a headbutt. Don't worry about it. Like, don't get it in your head. but something did change after ESPN went into the corner and said that. What do you think about that? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, first reaction before we even started telling the story, just talk about boxing and maybe a little bit of a controversial thing is that boxing's dirty. I mean, I have no problem with, and I like boxing. I like watching it. I think it's a great sport. But as far as all that stuff goes, it's very, very dirty. But no, and I think it's messed up. I think it's messed up that you had the broadcast go in and kind of give information like that. That's something that if you're going to disclose information in the middle of the fight, that should be coming officially from, the scorers, from whoever's regulating the fight. So not from another party that just happens to be there to be broadcasting on TV.
So that's interesting. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of a good analogy to throw out there, because that's an official ruling. Now, whether that was communicated to the corner or not, we don't know. So it's it's kind of my thought that if the commission made the decision, they told the corner and the corner knew, and they were just saying it was accidental headbutt. Maybe it made them feel confident. Like, you don't want to put it in your boxer's head that you just got lit up here. This guy's dangerous. You want him to remain calm. You want him to feel like he's in control. And so we'll just call it a headbutt. That's actually what I think. But I base that on nothing other than, playing sports and being around boxing gyms a little bit. I base that on no evidence at all. I mean, they didn't say that in an interview afterwards. They didn't say anything about it, at least as far as I know. So as far as we know, the official story is they thought it was an accidental headbutt, and ESPN told them it was actually a punch. Now, where I think it's kind of interesting is that's kind of important knowledge. It would kind of be like, in football they have the sticks, so you know how far you have to go. But say you thought you got the first down, the ref signaled first down, but then they backed it up and actually it's 4th and 1, and you call a play for 1st and 10. Like, since it's part of the game and part of the scoring, should the coach be made aware, like, yo, it's not 4th down, it's 1st down? Yeah, I know the ref told you it was 1st down, but it's not, because it wasn't like a that decision shouldn't be a secret. It should, the corner should know about it. Yeah, it's not a perfect analogy, I know.
But I get it, and I think it's actually more likely that they did give them. Yeah. That they did come down and tell both sides, hey, this is what because it does have a huge impact on the fight. You can't just, and I think it's a good analogy if they review a play and they determine that it was, the call on the field was not right and they changed it, then they both have sides to should know. Then they're going to, but just you can imagine a situation, no matter how unlikely it is, that it somehow doesn't make it to the sidelines and a coach calls a play for a completely different situation. The play doesn't work out, and then he's like, whoa, what the heck? But I think that's kind of part of the game, that mistake kind of happens. And just looking at football yesterday, you can see the Saints once again were on the wrong end of an absolutely blown call, where there was a fumble by the Jared Goff of the Rams. The quarterback, the defender, the lineman picked it up, ran it back like 80 or 90 yards for a touchdown. But as he was running it back, like midway into his run back, you heard the whistle blow, and they called an incomplete pass, which means that since the Saints were able to demonstrate a clear fumble recovery, you could review that, and the Saints got the ball, but it wiped the touchdown off the board. And then you looked at the replay, and it was like really clearly it was a fumble, that the ball looked like it moved forward because it hit his forearm, and that's what pushed it forward. Instead of letting the play just keep going and then waiting to review it, because they review all scoring plays, the refs made a mental mistake and blew the whistle dead, and so it wiped that touchdown off. So, and what are you going to do? I mean, everyone knows, including the referees and the Rams and the Saints, that the absolutely wrong call was made. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's the refs are human too. We would like them to not make mistakes like that, but
yeah. But where this is slightly different is it's not like it was a punch that landed and they said it was an accidental headbutt, and then we're looking at the replay later and be like, look, actually that was a punch. It should have ended the fight. This is a decision that's made that the corner didn't know.
Yeah. Assuming that was the case, that they actually.
That was the case, right?
No, I am completely. No. Then I think if they didn't know, well, it's one of those things. It depends.
It's weird, and I think it's actually, if you're a boxing fan, an interesting talk, because it's not like like if a judge whispered over and was like, "Yo, I gave that round to him," that would be egregious,
right?
Because nobody knows what the judges are doing until the scores are read. That would be like, that's not knowledge. That's not something you're supposed to know going into each round, how the judges decided each round. But an official ruling should be known. I did think it. Now, what I did think was weird is like how eager ESPN was and Bernardo Asuno to tell him and make sure he understands. And if I remember correctly, he first said, that was from a punch. And they're like, no, it's an accidental headbutt. And then he like kept clarifying, no, it's a punch, it's a punch, it's a punch. Now, he wasn't giving away a secret, like we said. Like, it's not like he was saying, like, I peeked over the judge's cards and he has Valine ahead 4-2. It wasn't anything like that. It was something that it was just interesting. And then the other thing to think of, you were talking about boxing being dirty, and I think, I'm not going to say nothing happens. I think that's a worse reputation than it actually has. But one thing you can't control, like if you watch Pulp Fiction and Butch knocking the guy out when he was supposed to take a fall. I mean, it really is unscripted. You can script it and you can tell the judges to decide this way, but if that guy gets knocked out, there's no hiding. You can't overturn that one. So in this case, had they called it an accidental headbutt, they could end it at any time and say that gash is too big. Let's go to the cards. Fury's ahead on the cards. He gets the win. But they did call it correctly a punch. And so then the other discussion is, if it was a headbutt, would they have ended the fight? Because if you Google Tyson Fury cut Otto Wallin, and he spells that it's Wallin or something like that. He's a Swede. The cut's pretty disgusting. It's pretty deep. It's pretty big. A lot of people said if this is a different fight, maybe they end it because of this cut. It was a pretty brutal cut, and Wallin was working it. He kept going after that cut as much as he could. He probably could have went after it a little more than he did, but anyway, if it was ruled a headbutt, would they have stopped the fight? Which is a question we can't answer. We don't know. But it's interesting. I just think it's interesting things to think about.
I don't know, and it's funny because I keep changing my mind a little bit, but I don't know enough about the rules to know whether that change. Wait, so you said it was originally ruled a headbutt?
That was kind of the story. That's what they were reporting. What they were reporting. Like, I wasn't in the corner. I don't know what was said.
Doesn't the ref?
The ref decides, and then the Nevada Commission looked at the replay and said no.
Okay. So on the mat, they said the ref indicated it was a headbutt.
Yes, and then in the corner after the round, you heard Fury talking to his trainer, and they were saying accidental headbutt. That's from an accidental headbutt. Okay. And they were talking about it. Then it got later ruled. So I don't know how the decision comes down either. I don't know if someone from the commission goes into the corner and says, just want to let you know, to be clear, that was from a punch, not a headbutt,
I would have to think that they would.
So would I. So do I.
So if that were the case, that they did not, if they're supposed to and then they didn't, then that's on the boxing officials.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is if it kind of sounds weird that ESPN is interviewing a trainer. If you don't watch boxing, that happens in every fight. At some point in the round, they go into the corner and interview the trainer. So it's not that weird that ESPN would be interviewing the trainer. It was kind of weird that they were just making sure that they know that it was not a headbutt, it was a punch.
Yeah, and I don't like the in-game reporter.
Neither do I.
They do it in hockey where they send that weirdo Pierre Maguire into the bench, during the game with the coach, and start asking him questions. And the coach is always like, obviously not thrilled that he's there talking to him.
And you're not going to get any real info. It's not like he's going to be like, here's our game plan.
Right. But to finish the thought, if the if the boxing officials are not supposed to, or that information was not supposed to be given to both corners, and obviously ESPN was, or at least this guy was way in the wrong to go and disclose that. And like you said, it is weird just by the way you're describing it, that he was so eager to kind of get that information, unless he was I haven't seen the clip, so maybe he was directly talking about it in there, but I don't know. It's weird. And just to kind of talk about some of the dirtiness of it that I made the comment on, and I don't mean to be, like you said, I'm not saying that fights are necessarily fixed, but remember we were at the was it the Liacouras Center? Was it Swift that fought? And was another.
We saw Jared Hurd and Danny Garcia both go by Swift. They were both on that card.
Okay, yeah, but he was it was again one of those fights where he was just kind of getting a warm up fight for something bigger. He's an up and comer and a guy he was supposed to beat, and it went to the cards. And I remember saying, like, the guy who was fighting him actually did a pretty good job. And did he win by decision, or was it a draw? I forget what happened, but it was like, whatever it was, we're kind of there like, man, those judges really did him a favor by not doing what we all saw. And again, we're not professional judges, but it was like, yeah, really wasn't as close as they made it seem, or even go in the direction. So that's where I think a lot of what I was calling dirtiness comes in.
Well, the other thing too with judging, remember, they're not looking at replays. They're also sitting on a side of the ring, so you're not getting every angle.
Yeah.
You're not always able to see if punches land. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the wild scorecards.
Sure.
That being said, whenever anything's being judged, especially when there's big money on the line, there's certainly incentives out there to make things go a certain way. So I'm not saying it never happens, but I am a fan of the sport, so maybe know my biases.
And we also, just to keep going on, another example of the Pulp Fiction kind of thing, but we actually saw that kind of happen. When we saw Christian Cardo fight. That was the last time. That was another one. It was supposed to be, kind of get him on the map more, because
that was a test for him. I mean,
it was a test, but he was supposed to win.
Yes, he was a big, heavy favorite. He's an up and comer prospect, and he's fighting again, by the way. So he did recover.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But that was a very scary knockout.
He took a cross, and that was one of those, like, is he dead?
Yeah, that was scary. But that was supposed to be his first test of a pretty good boxer who's got some experience and has fought at contender level.
He's an Olympian, right?
I believe he was, and he fought. He never won a belt, but he may have fought for it. Christian Cardo was 19 years old, up and comer. Really had a lot of hype around him. I think he was 10-0 or 11-0 or something.
I mean, we've seen him fight. Or he was at the Liacouras Center too, and he ripped the dude apart. Yeah. And I've seen him fight a few other times.
He's fought at Parks, the Sugar House.
I've seen him at Sugar House, I think twice, and he's a blast to watch.
Yeah, so hopefully he makes a good recovery and has a good career. But that was a scary knockout.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on? That we got some good boxing talk in.
Yeah, sure. Maybe Thaddeus Russell will come on again.
Yeah. Yeah, we could bring him on anytime he wants.
It's our dog whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what got him last time. So maybe we'll just put Thaddeus Russell in the title so he can.
Thaddeus Russell is an idiot and stupid about this point.
All right, so anyway, we were looking at some articles coming up with something to talk about. And do you want to go through this one a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. It's from the San Francisco Gate. I guess that's what I don't know if that's a newspaper or what the website's called. It seems to be a San Francisco news site. The title of the article by Madeline Wells is, "There really isn't anything that can keep you safe. Women Uber and Lyft drivers speak out." All right, how about I go through this and it's not too long.
Yeah.
Maybe just get a little longer, but it's not too long. We'll go through it and just kind of comment.
Yep.
So Laura Alicia Moreno, a Bay Area Uber driver, was driving late one night in Santa Clara County and picked up two unruly men from a bar. They were very drunk, and one immediately started making rape jokes and hitting on her. Quote, "You're so beautiful. Do you have a boyfriend? If you were my girlfriend, I wouldn't let you drive Uber. So many weird men out there," Moreno recalled him saying. At first, she tried to stay quiet and nervously laugh. She needed to get home. She needed the money from the ride. But as a sexual assault survivor, the man's comments set off alarm bells in her head. She told him to stop, or she would ask him to get out of her car. In return, the man screamed at her, called her a bad driver, and threatened to give her a low rating. "I left that ride completely shaken, angry, and disgusted that those men made me feel unsafe in my car," said Moreno. "I didn't drive for another 3 weeks after that." Shall I continue, or do you have something? Do you want to add something?
Yeah. Let me just. I've never driven Uber. I know you do, and I know I'm also not a woman, but like just right. And I don't mean to like know exactly what happened in that car ride because obviously I wasn't there, but like just her description of it, and again, assuming that this author is being fair with how she's writing this story out, that as it was described to her from Moreno. So I just want to get all that out there because reporters tend to
they're trying to make a story.
Right. But we'll assume that this is what Moreno was trying to say. Like the quote that she has, like it doesn't sound like the guy was necessarily going to mean her any harm. Like he was being a drunk idiot and kind of being a little bit mouthy, but like it was more like, man, like you shouldn't be out here because there's weirdos, which would, I mean, I don't know. It's I can't even really, I don't even want to comment on it because I don't know the situation.
Yeah, we don't really know the situation. I mean, what was quoted there is, "You're so beautiful. Do you have a boyfriend? If you were my girlfriend, I wouldn't let you drive Uber," whatever. I mean,
can actually
that's not
see so many weird men out here. I could actually, as I was saying that, I can see how that could be pretty ominous.
It depends on how you say it.
Right.
Here you are. I mean, I don't talk that way. I mean, I'm married. I have kids. I'm not going to be hitting on my Uber driver. But
also the consequence of her, pushing back was that he threatened to give her a low rating. Like nothing physical happened.
Okay. Well, that, as an Uber driver here, those ratings are important.
I know,
but 485. Yeah, I mean,
but it wasn't like it doesn't seem like if he got enraged by that, or at least started screaming at her, that it was words and a rating that were the negative consequence. Not that he was going to lay a hand on her. Yeah. Like if you're concerned about this guy who's on Hinge and is gonna. So let me just say, in defense of this guy, maybe that he's just probably being a drunk idiot.
Probably, and I'll go in defense of my coworker. Well, you're in my car. You show some respect.
Sure.
And yeah, the other thing is we don't know. I mean, it does say she was a survivor of a sexual assault. We don't know any details on that.
Right.
So you have past life experiences, things now. Now we'll get to more on that. And
there's a lot more.
There's a lot that you could.
Instead of trying to talk about it here, we'll let the story kind of steer that ship because we're going to end up talking about it anyway.
Yeah. All right. So I'll continue. Bay Area Lyft driver Aisha Birdsong has also had her fair share of run-ins with aggressive male riders. One passenger tried to kiss her. Another refused to leave her car until she gave him her phone number. I quickly disintegrate a lot of men's manhoods before they have an opportunity, she said. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that I probably would have been raped or taken advantage of quite a few times. Recently, Lyft announced a few new safety initiatives following a lawsuit from 14 women alleging the mishandling of their sexual assault complaints against drivers from the app. Now, all drivers will be required to complete a community safety education program, and a tool is being added to the app that alerts Lyft safety agents if a ride is unexpectedly delayed or off course, as well as an in-app panic button for both drivers and riders who need to call 911. Uber launched its in-app 911 button about a year and a half ago with technology that digitally sends trip data to 911 when pressed in some U.S. cities. We don't take lightly any instances where someone's safety is compromised, especially in the rideshare industry, including the allegations of assault in the news last week, wrote Lyft president and co-founder John Zimmer in a press release earlier this week. The onus is on all of us to learn from any incident, whether it occurs on our platform or not, and then work to help prevent them. Do you have anything to say about those couple lines there, those paragraphs?
Yeah, I mean,
one thing I thought really struck me in reading it is that she says that I quickly disintegrate a lot of men's manhoods before they even have an opportunity. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I probably would have been raped or taken advantage of quite a few times.
I don't think that's accurate.
I don't know where she's driving or who she's driving with, but I don't think that is anywhere close to reality.
Like, I don't think a rapist is going, like, you get shut down by a woman verbally, and that means that, oh, well, now I'm not going to rape you. I don't know.
And I know things happen in Ubers and Lyfts. They do. We know this. But if you're going to commit a crime, they know where you are and who you are.
Yeah, and if you're concerned, and like she mentioned, I think it was the guy who kissed her and wouldn't leave the car. Like, yeah, those guys are that's wrong. I mean, and if he's trying to kiss her like that, it's assault.
Yeah.
Or if he's not leaving her car when the ride's over, that's trespassing. So yeah, they're committing some crimes there, and not like egregious necessarily, but they're still crimes, and they're wrong, and she should not be cool with those things happening. But if you're concerned about going out and doing, driving around a car, and you're concerned about getting raped, like, that's a real worry for you.
You probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, what?
Yeah.
That kind of boggles my mind a little bit. And they say, well, that's easy for you to say. Well, but like, I mean, I don't think that I would work a job where my safety was so much of a concern, unless you really had no other means to for employment. Yeah. But again, I mean, that's kind of up to the individual to decide what's more important, the money or your personal safety. I know that sounds kind of nasty, but that's what we talk about when you talk about the Industrial Revolution back in the mid to late 19th century. Was that these factories were so dangerous, and people were losing limbs and getting killed, and all this bad stuff happening, and they weren't getting paid enough, and there was wage theft, and it's like, all right, well, that was obviously a better a better situation for them than what they were previously doing, which was working on a farm. So it's not exactly the easiest situation to say, like, well, someone should fix this. Well, maybe the solution right now that they would have, it would make it so that it's no longer good for her to drive, with the solution that, well, we know that the government would just come and mess it up, whether that's through a ban or some sort of regulation, but they might Lyft or Uber might have to make rules that made it so it's no longer profitable for someone like her to drive, and now she just doesn't even have the option anymore.
Right. Another thing, well, it's obviously the theme of the article is that it's, well, I don't want to say obvious, but you see it's like women are in danger.
Yeah, I don't think the article
Go ahead.
I don't think the article was that bad. Because they
It's
kind of
not that
did
bad.
both sides. Like you start reading, and you're like, oh goodness, and then they kind of said the other side of things a little bit later. So I
they
think
are quoting the person who said this. It's not like they're
right.
It's not editorial. I mean, they're quoting the driver.
Yeah.
I mean, if she believes she would be raped multiple times driving for Uber, I think you got to find something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're. Again, we don't know what her past experiences are and why she feels that everyone walking around is going to rape her.
And if that's the case, then it's probably not a good way for you to earn a living.
Yeah, exactly.
To have so many interactions
and
or at night in places you might not be familiar with, in a closed space where you don't have the opportunity to defend yourself very well, or you're not. I mean, whatever it is, it's just.
I think we should also look at. Being a cab driver is a dangerous occupation. Yeah. Traditionally, it always was, and a lot of times you're flagging down strangers, or strangers are flagging you down in the street, and they're paying cash. So you got a driver with cash on them, and strangers flagging them down.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because the alternative is not better.
Yeah, and so technology has helped that. It's been a while since I rode a cab, but the last few times I've been in there, they have the credit card thing, which, less cash on the driver. Uber, I know, which I do drive Uber, they tell you not to carry cash. It should be a cashless. That being said, if you tip your Uber driver in cash, keep it up. But it's supposed to be a cashless system, and that should make it safer because what are you going to – I mean, if you need to steal a car, you could do it, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're not going to have cash on you. No one's going to pull a knife on you. Typically, I mean, it hasn't happened to me. So what I would compare it to is what cabs were before Uber. Now we know who the driver and the passenger are. Have some kind of history on them. You have their bank information. You're going to find the person now. I guess if you steal a phone, I mean, there's ways you could. And stuff does happen. It's not a perfect system. People have gotten hurt in Ubers by drivers and drivers by passengers. You can find it in the news. It's a risk, but anyway.
And just another point I want to make too, because you might be, and I'll bring up a kind of a counterpoint to this later on. But it is in Uber and Lyft's best interest to make safety features and try to
absolutely
make these problems better because it makes people more interested in trying to either drive or take the rides. They feel safer. So we can't just say like, oh, well, if you're not comfortable, then it's completely on you. I think a lot of it is on the individual, especially, legally, especially you kind of know what the rules are. And because someone decides to commit a crime while you're in the Uber, unless Uber or Lyft does something that's like really egregious and, contributes to that through their own actions or I don't even want to say inactions. I mean, it's like walking into a shopping mall and getting mugged or robbed and then saying like, well, it's really the shopping mall. It's their fault. It's like, well, not necessarily. I mean, it's great if they have good security and they probably will have decent security, but you can't like say that the crime was committed by the shopping mall. And I think a similar thing applies to Uber and Lyft here. So I wanted to say there. And I think there's more on that later on.
Yeah, we'll continue. But it's not just women passengers who are at risk. It's the women drivers too. There really isn't anything that can keep you safe, wrote user Mama4, a Philadelphia Uber driver, on Ride Guru, a forum for drivers and riders to discuss rideshare apps. I am operating a vehicle that weighs over 4,000 pounds in a confined space with my back to passengers. Not an ideal situation to defend yourself. For drivers.
Okay, that's where I want to say, like, all right, yeah, Uber and Lyft have an incentive to create a safer environment, but like this is exactly like she just pretty.
She summed it up pretty much what the reality is.
Yeah, and all right, so you do it, and you're going to do it anyway. I mean, the risks going in.
Yes.
This is what kind of burns me up about anything. Like people are so conditioned to think that, oh, well, something's out there that it must be safe for me to use, whether that's something like Uber or Lyft. That's like a product. That's like a financial investment or instrument that, oh, it's there, so it must be on the up and up. It must be legit. I don't have to worry about doing my due diligence or concerning about protecting myself, because everyone thinks that, oh, well, it wouldn't be legal to otherwise do it. Well, no, there's so much stuff going on out there that like the government just, even if you think it's trying to do a good job or does a good job, that there's just so much stuff going on that they can't keep tabs on every little thing. And if they did keep tabs on every little thing, you wouldn't be able to do anything, because that's the only way you can control things,
right,
is by not letting anyone have any freedom. So like it bothers me so much where especially stuff like in the Bitcoin world, you have all these ICOs popping up and these other things where it's like, oh, you could send us your Bitcoin and we'll give you a 15,000% dividend on it every 2 weeks. It's like, and you go and do that. I mean, that's on you. You can't just sit there and say like, oh, well, because someone's offering it to me, it means that it must be legal and vetted and regulated and everything else. And I'm so shocked and surprised that something bad happened because of the decision I made. And anyway, a good solution to all this would just be to use your tractor to drive an Uber or Lyft, because it's so open that it's very easy to see what's going on.
Yeah,
not confined
definitely.
as much.
Definitely. As long as there's 4 doors and a back seat, you're good.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to continue. For drivers, taking safety precautions can also come with an added concern: retaliation. Being on the phone, some said that in emergencies they call a family member or friend, or asking drivers to get out of your car can aggravate riders and cause them to give low ratings. In addition, monetary pressures can cause female drivers to accept trips that are late at night or in unfamiliar areas they wouldn't normally feel comfortable with. It's also not financially viable to avoid male passengers altogether. I don't bother with sex discrimination. That's just turning down money, said Tia Starr, a Sonoma County Uber driver. To keep herself safe, Starr believes that tension diffusion is key. Other women also agreed that staying quiet or not engaging with aggressive passengers is important. Uber and Lyft both prohibit drivers from carrying firearms. Lyft doesn't allow weapons at all, even pepper spray. So if women do defend themselves in this way, they're not admitting it. All right, I'll continue.
No, I mean, that's a good thing, because there's
yeah.
another point I want to bring. I'm going to save for a little bit later.
Sure.
But as far as the weapons go, I mean, it's
my car, and you're going to defend yourself. And if someone was going to hurt me and attack me and I defended myself and got kicked off the Uber platform, well, all right, I'm alive. I mean, exactly. Whatever. I'll give it up. I'll find something else to do. I think it's funny that monetary pressures cause female drivers to accept trips that are late at night. So at least they're getting compensated for this additional fear.
Well, yeah, there's a price. I mean, if you've got to go drive far away in an area that's not great, and there's not a high supply. Yeah, and there's not a high supply of other drivers in the area, that's going to raise the price. And if you want to capture that profit opportunity, then, usually there's some risks associated with that, just like anything. So, I mean, again, that's another thing. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Now, my attitude when I drive is I turn it on, I'll go wherever, I'll pick up wherever. I don't really turn down many rides. I'm also a bigger guy. I can handle myself. But like that passenger said, or that driver said, you're in a car with your back turned. I often drive at night. It's dark. Someone could knock me over the head very easily. And there's been times I've had passengers in the car where I'm looking in that mirror a lot, because this guy's a little shady. He's a little like, I want to be ready. If I have to move, I got to be ready to do it. And you're just thinking, get to the end, get this ride over with. I never kicked a guy out of the car because I felt uncomfortable. It's rare that it happens. I've done a lot of rides, and I've maybe only a handful of times did I think something was strange or I wasn't comfortable with my passenger. That being said, I haven't had any problems where there's been assaults. Yes, I've had drunk people. I've had people being obnoxious. I've had people saying inappropriate things. I used to work in a bar. I have thick skin. I don't know. I kind of handle it and go on.
That's the thing. I mean, you're in a service industry, probably in the very likelihood driving people to and from bars. You're going to get drunk people. I mean, again, that's another thing. You have to know what you're getting into.
That was going to be my next point too. Yeah. There's also times where, see, I like to drive, like this other driver said, I like to drive weekend nights because you get more money. There's more surges, there's more business. But sometimes I go, do I really feel like driving these people? Because you just don't know who you're going to get. You could be driving someone at 2 a.m. who's been drinking since 4 p.m, and they're a mess, and they're a risk to puke in your car, or to be obnoxious, or to be belligerent, or to pass out in the back seat, and then you have to kind of figure out what you're going to do with them when you get to your destination. Those are all risks when I drive weekends. I could just choose to drive after work and take people home from work. A lot safer, more sober people, still some demand, but I choose to come home and hang out with my kids for a bit, and then I'll drive at night. That's what I decide to do. But I know when I go out on weekends, there's going to be added risk. Does that mean it's right or safe? Like, are those people still jerks? Of course they are, but I'm choosing to interact with them.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you. Do you prefer either way if someone sits in the front seat or the back seat?
No.
Okay. Because I don't like sitting in the back seat just because it's like.
And people usually come up to people usually automatically get in the back seat, and that's fine. I don't tell them to sit front.
I say, is it okay if I sit up front? And
yeah,
I've never had someone say no.
I always say, yeah, wherever you're comfortable. I don't mind.
I just don't like the, oh, you are my driver. I'd rather, sit up there and talk to them like normal people.
Yeah, I prefer conversation, but I also know a lot of passengers don't. So sure. I kind of work by a don't speak unless spoken to. I say, hi, how are you? How's your night? And if they, you can tell if someone wants to talk or not. If they give a one-word answer and plug the headphones in, it's all right, and sometimes you have a conversation. So
that's when you disintegrate their manhood.
Yes, I do. I that's one of the first things I do. I can go on.
Yeah.
Where I lost my spot though.
Some opt for more.
Yes, some opt for more expensive measures, installing dash cameras. However, I really didn't feel that it was my duty to purchase additional equipment to monitor my safety, said Moreno. Well,
okay.
That's an interesting quote.
Like, again, I don't feel like in this situation, I don't feel bad for you. Like,
whose responsibility should it be?
Right. There was a great Mike Rowe, the guy did the Dirty Job show, and he narrated the Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
And I remember there was an episode where they just kind of gave a backstory or something about that show, and kind of from Mike Rowe's perspective, or maybe it was just like an interview with him, and he was talking about when he first did that show. Before they started recording the normal episodes, they sent him on a boat to actually experience what was going on. And he said the first time he was out there, and they were really kicking up in the waves and everything in a storm, and he's out there on the deck, and equipment's flying all over the place, and there's waves crashing, the boat's rocking. He goes into the inside the boat up to where the captain is. I guess that's a bridge up there, and he says, like, Captain, OSHA, because of everything that was going on. He said the captain, looked at him and kind of laughed and said, "Son, my job is to make you money. Your job is to keep yourself safe." And it's like, and he stopped and thought about it, and he goes, "Yeah, that's absolutely right." It's like, who else is going to? Oh, it was a TED Talk. It was a TED Talk by.
I was going to say, I heard that.
It was about workplace safety, and that's kind of the thing that he said made him realize that it's like, all right, well, who's going to take care? Like, you have to take care of yourself, and this is true for any situation, whether it's actually like for safety to prevent you from getting hurt. It's also just generally in the working world, just for your own advancement of your own career. Like, you can't rely on other people to take care of you. You have to be the one that takes care of yourself, and hopefully other people are out there and helping her out. If you work at a good company, they should be. I think it's better for them, the company, and for the employees that they do take care of safety issues and help put you in a good spot for success, whether that's for your career or your for safety. I think a business that does that will be more successful overall.
Absolutely.
But I mean, you
And
can't sit there and because they don't put a railing on a roof, you can't walk off the side of the building and say, well, it was their fault they didn't put a railing there. Well, you should have not walked off the side of the building.
Yeah, and I mean, look, what if would this driver, and maybe this is something for her to answer, but be okay with taking less money per ride?
That's the other thing. All right, you force Uber or Lyft to pay for the dash cameras. Like, where do you think that money comes from?
No, I think it would be maybe they've thought of this or considered this, or maybe it's not possible. But what if Uber had like a program you could opt in and give 10% of your weekly earnings to a fund that could then be spent through the Uber store, if there is one, to buy a dash cam? Sure, that would be something nice, but that's not Uber providing it. That's you paying it out of your wages.
Right.
Which is going to happen either way. If Uber provides a dash cam, which would just be a horrible idea for Uber. I imagine there's several drivers who sign up and never drive, or sign up and drive for a month and stop and never do it again. I imagine there's a lot of high turnover.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would not be a profitable move for them to buy dash cams for everyone who's driving.
So, a lot of unintended consequences, mostly for the drivers like Moreno, who's consistent about it. And, I think you're just better off doing it yourself instead of saying, that should be a policy. Like you said, with the high turnover or just people that don't actually do it much, if they have to pay for a camera for them, I mean, it's either they're going to have to raise.
They're going to change the way people can do it, or they're going to say you can drive for Uber, but you have to drive at least X hours a week, which kind of takes away its freedom of being able to take 2 months off if you want, or only driving when you need an extra $100 or whatever the case is, which is one of the attractive things of Uber, which is kind of why I like to do it. I can do it when I want and not do it when I don't want, and that gives you a lot of freedom, in quotes. I do have another job that pays my bills, but this allows me to do it when I want, and that's kind of nice. And if they were saying, like, we're going to provide this, this, and this, but you have to do, I don't know, 100 rides a week or 50 rides a week or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. I would stop because I don't drive that much.
Yep.
And like you said, at the end of the day, you're responsible. It's nice for companies to do things, but they can do all they want. If you don't keep yourself safe, you're not safe. Mostly, I'll continue. Mostly, safety is a matter of avoiding unfamiliar areas and trusting your gut. Denise A Lyft and Uber driver in San Francisco, recalled one night where she accepted a ride at 2 a.m. in Benicia, an area she'd never been. In the end, she canceled the ride when the passengers started acting suspicious upon her arrival, which she's grateful for, as she now believes that they were planning to steal her car. I called my husband immediately, and he said, "You're not driving late anymore. You need to stay in your own area," she said. Now, I typically shut my app off around 9 p.m. Many women avoid driving.
Just good for her. I mean, that's a logical decision.
And there's been times you go in places you don't know, and there's some shady areas out there, and you're probably safe.
Well, I was just thinking about it.
But it can make you feel really uncomfortable.
I mean, I live in a nice area. I feel very safe, but I also live pretty close to Wilmington, Delaware. And if I started driving Uber, there's a good chance that I'm going to get pulled down there for rides because it's a lot more people. And, as we heard from Joe Biden recently about, I could be picking up Corn Pop, who could be there waiting with me with a rusty razor. So,
well, this is maybe just me, but I feel much more comfortable even driving in bad sections of Philadelphia than I do when I get out in rural areas and it's so dark you can't see anything and there's no lights and no people. Because if you're driving in North Philadelphia, there's Broad Street. If you're in West Philly, you can get on Market or Walnut pretty quickly, typically, depending on where you are, which is well-lit areas with lots of people. When you're in the middle of nowhere, there is nothing out there to help you or stop you or,
that must be where governments don't exist, according to Lynn Stewart Panamore.
Yeah, they must be.
Nice blast from the past there.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that one the other day as I was walking and there were no street lights.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was really my first Twitter scalp.
Yeah, that was maybe we'll talk about that again one day.
Yeah.
Many women avoid driving late at night due to scares like Denise's, although this can lead to missing out on some of the best money making opportunities. Other ways of protecting themselves include not accepting passengers with low ratings and using the app's route sharing feature so a friend or family member can keep tabs on them.
I think this is where I want to say that what I was saying before. I think the author did a decent job because that's
Yes.
where they like say, all right, well, there are ways currently
Yep.
that you can, that these services do help you protect yourself. And I think the rating system is one of like the brilliant things. It's like eBay was big with that, pioneering that was with, you don't know who the heck you're buying or selling from. They could be trying to scam you, but that rating system provides a lot of assurances for someone.
Yeah, and that's something I do when I do drive. I do look at, because when you're a driver and you get a ping, an alert that a ride is there, you have to tap the screen to accept it. You don't know the person's name. You don't know where they're going. It does tell you how far away they are for the pickup in time. So it could say like 10 minutes away, and it'll give you a rating. So if you have a rating under 4.5, I don't accept those rides. And the reason is, I don't know, 99% of the rides I give are 5 stars, no problems, no issues, no reason to give 4 stars. If you're under a 4.5, that means you're getting more 4-star rides than 5-star rides. So there had to be something that happens.
Right.
Most of the time you're in the car. Otherwise, it defaults to 5 stars. While I don't really talk to a whole lot of Uber drivers, I imagine everyone does what I do, just give 5 stars, accept whatever. So if you're under a 4.6, 4.5, that means you're getting a lot of lower star ratings.
Yeah, you're giving people a reason to go in, and
yeah, and so if you get that low rating, I don't accept the ride. I'm not, and it's so rare that I see that. Almost all my rides are great, even when I drive late at night on weekends. The majority of them are great rides. I'll continue. However, Star thinks Uber's Follow My Ride feature needs to be better. It times out and doesn't tell you, simply doesn't work, and drops the track if you lose reception, she said. All of these drivers surveyed believe that the apps could stand to implement more safety precautions. Some suggested that calling someone else a ride shouldn't be allowed. Not having any information on the passenger in your car leaves a potential harasser completely unaccountable. Also, some of the recommended background checks for passengers were a night mode that only connects women with women at late hours. Earlier this year, Uber launched a new women preferred feature for women drivers in Saudi Arabia, but it hasn't made its way to the United States.
Okay, let's stop it there real quick.
One of the things, and I don't know that, well, go ahead.
Having passengers pass background checks would be a disaster.
Yes.
I don't even want to talk about that much because I don't think any of our listeners are going to really have an issue with that. But I am in the other point about allowing women drivers to only connect with women passengers, I think is a great idea. I think that both sides should be able to discriminate as freely as they want. And if you, like they said earlier, one woman said earlier, like, I don't want to discriminate based on sex because I don't want to miss out on the money.
Yeah.
But if you are okay with missing out on that money and you want to take what you believe is a safer bet by only taking women passengers, that's fine. I don't want to force. I don't want to be in someone's, as a man, I don't want to be in a woman's car if she doesn't want me there. Just like I don't want to, like any other situation like that. If someone's providing me a good or service, I don't want to be accepting it from them if they don't want me to, because I'm not going to get the service or the product that I would expect to be getting.
Now,
or just I don't want to put them in a situation where they're not regardless because I'm not gonna hurt anyone when I'm in their car with them. I'm not a predator. But even if this person is being delusional, I would prefer that they don't go through that, getting nervous when I'm in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what I will say, and the reason why Uber doesn't give you the name or where they're going before they're actually in your car. Well, they give the name before you're in your car, but not when you accept the ride. So my phone will start beeping. It'll say pick up 5 minutes away, whatever. You hit yes, it gives you the passenger's name and where they are so you can go to the spot. Then when you pick them up, you start the ride, and then it tells you where your destination is. And the reason they do that is what they say is they want to have a consistent service, and they don't want discrimination for whatever lack of a better word. They do allow some discrimination because they tell you the rating. So like I said, I don't have to accept rides from riders who have a low rating. But what I think they want to avoid is if someone's going far or someone's going short, because short rides don't pay much, they want to have a consistent service. So where their passenger says, I need a ride, someone comes and gets them. And what they're worried about, I think, is if they give the name and say it's, I don't know, a Spanish name or a traditionally black name or whatever, people just decline anyone with a name they don't think is familiar. Or for that matter, a white name. You don't want to ride white people, whatever the case is. I think that's why they do it. And I think that's fair for Uber. They have a business and they want to have a consistent service and they want everyone to feel that they can use the app. That being said, like you said, if there's a guy who doesn't like, Mexicans or black people and you're a Mexican or a black person, do you want to ride from that person?
Right. And that's where you need to let the market work itself out and let Uber and Lyft come up with solutions on their own, because I guarantee you that if they had a free market without having to worry about the government and rage mobs flipping out over their decisions that they would make, that I am pretty confident that in a situation like this where they women say like, well, we want to be able to discriminate with who we give rides to, then Uber would say, all right, well, for all the reasons you just said why they don't want to allow you to have some ability to filter who you're going to take, they're going to say, well, you're going to take a little bit less income for your ride because we're allowing you this additional freedom.
I'll tell you what,
and I think that's a great way to do it. Whereas the people that say, no, I'll do whatever, I don't care who I'm picking up and I don't care where I'm taking them, how long or how short, then they're the ones that are going to,
that's what I was just going to say.
Make a little bit more money.
So you get surge rates when there's not many drivers in the area. So if the drivers that are in the area are limiting their rides and that forces demand up for someone like myself who will drive anyone anywhere, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it actually works out for everyone.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, I would be more than happy with that. And like you said, it works out for everyone. If you're a driver and you want to make some money, but you don't want to drive certain people and you can filter that out, great. And that's better for me, someone who will drive everyone, because that puts fewer drivers out there that I have to compete with for these rides. So I'll move on. There's nothing more important than safety of the drivers and riders we serve, said an Uber spokesperson. We will continue to put safety at the heart of our business and expect to roll out more features this year. Despite the occupational hazards, none of these women drivers are planning to stop driving anytime soon. The flexibility of driving for Uber or Lyft is what keeps them, and in some cases, a moral obligation. Shit happens at work, but I refuse to let some disrespectful people keep me from doing my job and taking away my freedom Uber gives me, said Moreno. At the end of the day, most Uber riders are really amazing, and I want to stay out driving because I know I'm helping keep people safe by getting them home and keeping drunk people off the road. So Moreno, with all the weird quotes she had earlier, when she summed it up, I think that's probably pretty fair. My guess is she was answering a survey, and it probably said something like, do you ever feel uncomfortable? In which case, if I was given the survey and I was answering honestly, yes, I have been uncomfortable with passengers in my car. That being said, as she just wrapped it up, the freedom it gives you in making your own hours and driving when you want and still getting some money out of it is worth it. And you are keeping drunk drivers off the road, and you make sure people get to their destination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty good. I think it's a brilliant system. I like to do the driving, and for as tough as maybe we were on this Moreno person, I think she finished it up pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad that she said those words and the author wrapped it up that way, because I think it puts a good bow on it. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, like anything else, there's no silver bullet. There's no such thing as utopia. You're not going to be able to solve every single problem. People all are different, have their own reasons for why they do things, sometimes good reasons, sometimes bad reasons. I don't think there's, and I mentioned it earlier, the only way that you can really prevent anything bad from happening is just by having someone eliminate all of your freedom. And I don't think that we want to live in that world. But if you let the market kind of do its thing and run its course, people come up with creative solutions to solve problems by keeping people, all parties, pretty happy, finding compromises. And I think we kind of talked one through that I think would be a really pretty realistic situation if it worked its way out, with the allowing discrimination, but it affecting your profitability as a driver. So, just let Uber and Lyft keep working,
keep competing.
Yeah.
Because they do keep coming out with new things. The app constantly changes, and
it's an arms race of all these features to make the ride and the driving better. They're trying to attract drivers and riders. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah.
But it's let them compete and let them figure out the best ways. If one can offer a little bit safe, if all else equal, hey, but we're a little bit safer, then people are going to want to use the safer service.
Yeah. When I started driving a couple years ago, it was great. I made more money than I make now per hour or per ride or whatever, however you want to divide it up. And there was a lot of complaints from the drivers who do it full time or doing it all the time. And they're saying, when the high demand comes, obviously more drivers come, and we're the ones out here working all the time. Why don't we get taken care of? It's like Uber doesn't care about their drivers. They'll give anyone the same deal I got. So Uber came out with a program, and now you earn points. And you can qualify for different levels. And, it's now a lot harder for me to qualify for those added bonuses. And they even have one. It's Arizona State Online College. They'll pay for your tuition if you're at the top level or second level. I don't know. Wow. So if you're doing it full time, you can get free tuition at Arizona State. They're online. I don't know if it's a separate university, but it's the same. I mean, it's the same. I know it's the same university because it has the same crest. And I don't qualify for that. I don't qualify for any of their levels right now. But sometimes I think you have a 3-month period to qualify. See if I could go after it and see what happens. So anyway, my point in that is Uber did respond to their drivers who they thought made a good point. Like, you're the ones out here making Uber work every day. You should be rewarded for that. And they are. They get to get more information on their riders, and I think they get better bonuses and stuff if you complete a certain amount of rides. They give you bonuses, and so if you're out there driving every day all the time and doing a lot of rides, you get better bonuses. So they do come up with ideas, and I'm sure maybe 6 months from now that program will change, or they'll tweak it or make it better or add different things. They're constantly changing. They're always adding new things. It's a really interesting company.
Yeah. No, I think it's all great.
Yeah. So I think we should wrap it up there.
Yep.
Do you have a free market success story other than the episode we just did?
Yeah, I do. I was cleaning out my garage today, and I came across some old computer equipment that I got from my parents' house that I'm trying to organize and clean up. And there's some this is like old, I don't know, some plotter from maybe even the late 80s, early 90s, but it had like one of those 20 million pin plugs.
Nice. Yeah. Wait, what are they called? Are they called serials?
Yeah. Serial adapters or something.
Yeah.
And, I found a couple, and they're all different sizes and everything. And I remember growing up and, having the joystick for games, and then you get, had a new computer, and it's going to be so much better. Then you go on the back of the computer, there's no port for it. And you're like, oh, well, there goes that. But we don't have that problem anymore, because everything that you connect to your computer pretty much now is done by USB port, including the microphone.
Which automatically installs the drivers for it,
yes.
too. That would be another thing. You couldn't just plug in a printer and have it work.
Yeah. Now it's all plug and play, whether, your printers are hooked up. Printers are connected by Wi-Fi now. You don't even have to
Right.
hardwire your computer or your printer to it. And there's so much Bluetooth stuff now too. I've got a Bluetooth speaker that I can connect to my phone or my computer that I use all the time. And it's just this kind of standardization really that was done by the market.
Mm-hmm. And Apple
USB.
tried. Didn't they have like what they call it, FireWire or something? Is that still around?
Oh, I don't know.
It was kind of competing with the USB, but now I believe, I don't own an Apple computer, but I believe they have USB ports.
I would have to imagine they do.
Yeah, I think they would. I don't use Apple equipment other than my phone.
I don't use it anyway.
Which they give you USB for that, so I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
So USB
I know, just like they're doesn't. I know Apple's tried to do that, and they're trying to do their own kind of standard thing, which is fine. But I think they're probably getting pressured. Didn't they try to do like the headphone jack that was also the? Didn't they have something weird about?
They did change
oh
it.
Yeah, the headphone jacks were only like an Apple.
Yep, they did
connector.
that.
And it's like, I know that was like immediately backlashed by consumers. So they tried it, didn't work, and I don't know where they ended up with it. I don't follow their stuff, but
yeah, I don't know. And well, now they do. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah, it's let the market kind of experiment and do their own thing, and it's amazing how people that are competing and people that don't necessarily have any connection to each other end up kind of moving towards the same thing. It's kind of a foil for talking about money and Bitcoin, how it kind of converges on the same thing. Just money in general, that people are trying to solve their own problems individually, but they end up using this one monetary standard, and it creates so much more efficiencies, which creates so much more wealth for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's amazing. You don't need the government to have everybody kind of stepping in line together.
Just kind of happens.
Yep.
Cool. Well, if there's any computer people who can correct me on my FireWire, go for it.
Yeah. So again, the show notes page will be mcflugel.com/160. Is it 162? I forget. I don't have.
Sure.
Let me check the. I want to send all of our millions of listeners to the wrong.
Yeah, that would be a debacle.
Yeah.
I think it is
162. Yep. And we'll link to this article that we read through in case you want to read it again. I think that's the only thing. Or maybe I'll link to the fight.
Yeah, put a picture of Fury's eye up there or something.
Okay.
It's gross. That'll turn readers away. It was
Nice.
a deep cut.
Nice. So all right. I think that's all we got. Also, remember, check out libertymugs.com. There's someone. Let me give a shout out to Jackson Blood. Do you know him on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, he. I asked him for. I hosted my mom's birthday dinner at my house this weekend, and so I was cooking dinner and wanted a good wine pairing. So I sent him a DM asking for some help, and he gave me one. It was a Montepulciano. It was the wine type, and it ended up was a great pairing, and he knows his stuff. So shout out to Jackson Blood. Appreciate the help.
Shout him out.
Yeah. It'd actually be fun to have on talking it, because we've had different people come on to talk about a little bit different stuff. And with the fine art episode with Shop Arcus last week, I think it'd be interesting to have Jackson on to talk about fine food and fine eating and palates and everything, because he's got.
Yeah, he likes to stack things high with a forklift.
Yes, I did get that. So all right, of course, I'm the only. Leave the jokes to the professional, Slappy. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.